Resident Evil Requiem is proof that its developers not only remember the franchise's past, but have learned from it too. Earlier this month, I was invited by Capcom to try out a hands-on preview of roughly 3 hours of the game, and there were so many times throughout where I was reminded of almost every RE title I have played. It had me navigating Spencer Mansion-esque interior design, getting chased by mutated monstrosities through tight corridors, and of course, experiencing this new story involving characters who also have their own history and connections within the series in different ways. Requiem's approach to its undead opponents is very clever, and one of the most memorable parts of the preview for me was coming across a worker mindlessly flailing its arm to try and turn off a light switch while groaning about following the rules. It was a lesson about the setting and environmental interactions, as well as how important light and darkness is when considering how to deal with enemies and their weaknesses. Plus, it also added another layer to the thought process of choosing when an aggressive approach would be more favourable to a stealthy one. Whether by reading notes or observing their appearance and behaviour, even the smallest details of a zombie's backstory could be revealed, giving a whole lot of personality to the undead in this entry. And I just love the idea of using even basic enemies not just as a gameplay device, but a narrative one too. I think I also just really like the exploration of the relationship between memory and psychology with zombie viruses and mutation. Resident Evil games are sort of split in two. There are the more action-heavy titles and the traditional survival horror ones. But in Requiem, you will be experiencing both sides of Resident Evil through Grace and Leon. By default, Grace's sections are in first person, whereas Leon's are in third, and although you can change the camera options to be whatever you like, I found the intended switch between them helped me mentally settle into the contrasting playstyles each time. Where I'd be more conscious of resources and lockpicking as Grace, I'd then be basking in the satisfaction of blasting away enemies and smashing apart a cupboard door with an axe as Leon. It was also great hearing each character's thoughts when going through the same area, like how Grace's initial fearful reaction to something would later on be followed by one of Leon's witty one-liners.
Sorry to cut your act short.
It felt so in sync with my own progression as the player as I learned the enemy locations and layouts, gradually gaining Leon Kennedy-level confidence myself. The rate at which things would unlock and new mechanics would be introduced flowed incredibly well, and it was so fun experimenting with new tools and equipment in addition to the literally blood-fueled crafting system. Not to mention the smile I had on my face when the hemolytic injector turned a zombie into a surprised fleshy explosion. The voice acting was fantastic across the board, and I was especially floored by the performance for Grace, because her fear and unease was simply infectious. Again, I only played 3 hours or so of Requiem, but I cannot wait to experience the rest of it to see if it really is the culmination of the best parts of Resident Evil so far. A big thank you to Capcom for inviting me to experience the preview.